Alright, Shalom, citate in all sincerity. Shalom to, staying on, which is how you stay in order. But anyways, let me get back into what I was getting into. Esau cut my live again. I did not end my live. Esau did. Alright, so, like Esau likes to do, when it gets too hot, Esau will end the live. But anyways, hey, when it gets too live for these devils, they're gonna end it. But anyways, let me get into what I was getting into before. On the men of thy confederacy, I was going into how these heathens, these different heathen nations that clicked up with these devils to take our people down and to oppress our people and to cut our people off as a nation. So the name of Israel, Yasharallah, may be no more in remembrance, and we're planning to ultimately genocide us. And yeah, when Esau does this shit, that's part of the hell we catch because we're doing the right thing. And as well as other Edomites, other Edomite countries, other Edomite kingdoms, like the 10 Horns, which is the EU/NATO countries, and which are gonna turn on the whore. And Russia is ruled by Esau. These so-called Russians, they're not the original Russians that was there, man. They're the same people that's ruling America, just a different tribe. The Edomites. Even the 1948ers drawing Esau, particularly these Babylonian Edomites, into World War III. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Hold on. And all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men drew them out, like the least of the flock, right? Shall draw them out. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. These heathens and these other Edomite kingdoms, they eat America's bread. They participate in. They sell their products here, and they make money off this place. And bread, money is figuratively referred to as bread. We all know that. And you can think of it that way, as well as America is especially Middle America. Middle America is one of the biggest bread baskets, one of the main bread baskets of the world, providing bread to a lot of places, literally. A lot of corn and wheat is grown here. A lot of grains is grown here. So all the men that they eat thy bread, these other nations and these other Edomite kingdoms have laid a wound under thee. That's coming. There is none understanding in him. None understanding in him. Verse 8, shall I not in that day say it Yahweh Hashem Yahushai even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau. Yep. The wise men out of Edom are the Most High Yahweh has destroyed. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, He's destroyed the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau, which means the government of Esau. That's why they're trying to destroy their own queendom in hopes just to find us, get rid of us, build a new queendom. Esau's own pride has deceived him. He thinks he's going to be able to do that. He has no understanding. He has no understanding. The wise men of Teman, they're no longer wise. Verse 9, and thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, is mentioned right after, to the end that every one on the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. This is the beginning of this. All this going on, this false flag that they finna do, man, it's the beginning of this. Just trust the process. It's the beginning of it. And the mighty men of Esau shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Verse 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, thou shalt be cut off forever. And this is payback. Esau is using Esau to pay Esau back, as well as the other heathens. It's amazing how that works. Divide and conquer, just like they did to us. It's being done to them. Get to it. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces and foreigners entered into his gates, cast lots upon Jerusalem, people before its place, by the way, even thou was as one of them. Verse 12, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day he became a stranger, and neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither thou should have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Then start all the way when these devils, these Edomites came against us, during the time when the Babylonian Empire, the ancient one, came against us. All the way till now, these are when they're the modern day Babylonians. Verse 14, verse 13, thou shouldst not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yeah, thou shouldst not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance. Man, bitch, fuck away. In the day of their calamity, Salaki. It's a bug. Verse 14, neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. Verse 15, for as the day of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. Verse 16, for as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. These devils in our land. Yeah, they shall drink and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they have not been. No, they're going to take, just like they doing right now, like on our land, just doing whatever, right? all kinds of bullshit, you know, it's like, you know, they're going to drink that cup of affliction just like we drank that cup. And they shall drink, and they shall be as though they have not been. Verse 17, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess the possessions. Verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, in which Esau is going to be possession. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle on them and devour them, and there shall be not be any remaining of the house of Esau. For Yahweh has spoken at the beginning of this process. You know, beginning of sorrows for the 2/3 and for the heathens, but ultimately for Esau. Ultimately for Esau. The beginning of their judgment. Verse 19, and they of the south shall possess the mount of Esau, and they of the plains of Philistines, and they shall possess the fields of Ephraim, and the fields of Samaria, and Benjamin shall possess Gilead. Not only the people, but the lands. Verse 20, and the captivity of this host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even them that are involved in it, and so-called indigenous Africans who sold our people into slavery. Even unto Zarephath in the captivity of Jerusalem, which is Zephrath, shall possess the cities of the south. Verse 21. This is the beginning of this. I'm going to get into why I'm saying, like, probably going to let that the Hoover Dam is a possible target for a false flag. I'm going to get into that. Why I'm saying that. Verse 21. And Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. The kingdom shall be Yahweh. Let me just see. And let me get into why I say what I say. Let me show y'all something. This is what they could have in mind. Get this Exhibit A. Exhibit A right here.
Right now is the greatest time in human history to be a knowledge.
Before I begin, Esau shows us what he's gonna do. A lot of times Esau show that, you know, they believe that they got
entrepreneur. With Thinkific, you can easily turn your expertise into online courses.
Fuck that.
We're here to cover the sneak preview of our new spot.
Hold on. At the beginning, I'm gonna run that back. At the beginning, plotting as Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns represents Jacob Rothschild. Look at his plotting ass. Look at his plotting ass. And then keep that in mind. They're the ones who are behind it. They show you that too.
We're here to cover the sneak preview of our new sponsor, Excellent Burger. I'm just getting word Springfield Dam is ruptured and water is roaring down. We'll let the sad news cover that. I'm here. He was a good reporter. Great parking spot. But let's move on from grief to beef.
Also, something else that they show is being like the days of Noah. These days. You know, let me get that. Everybody's lollygagging, thinking it's gonna be alright. Like that Kendrick Lamar song. Destruction is coming. Let me get that. Because it showed you the happy news, man. The happy news. Basically, excellent burger. That's scriptural, man. For as the days of Noah were, Matthew 24 and 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Verse 38. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Verse 39. And you not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. There you go. Looks down on his own people, man. The elites of Esau look down on the rest of Esau. You know, they're like the unwanted, you know, the throwaways. Hey, basically the 2/3 of Esau. They're looked at as that. The peons, basically. They're looked at as peons. And, hold on. You know, they're useless eaters too. It's really about the headed by the 144K versus the elites, quote unquote. But yeah, let me get another clip, because keep that one in mind, because they show you in The Simpsons. Then let me get this right here, that Bud Light commercial. Maybe other side can get show you the whole
Bud Light party believes in change. That's why Bud Light has a new look, and we want to share it with everyone. From our national parks.
Let me run that back.
Raise one to right now.
Show you that first.
Bud Light party believes in change. That's why Bud Light has a new look, and we want to share it with everyone. Bud Light party believes in change. That's why Bud Light has a new look, and we want to share it with everyone.
Great Reset, Delta.
From our national parks, for further shores, jackpot. Your living room, lock on the yard seas. Still the same refreshing Bud Light with a new look.
Yup. And you see it right there. And let me get you know, they're throwing up hints basically. Let me get something else that I think I should get. Hold on. They do that shit a lot. I mean, San Andreas is about an earthquake, but they put it where you least expect. Shalom Ak Malak Araya Alaya Lawaya Shalom Ak Yaba Shim Yah Shai Brakatha. Yabashim Yawashai Bashim Kakadash Brakatha. I ain't seen you in a while. You know, these devils, man, they got some up their sleeve, man. They got a false flag up their sleeve. You know, I was bringing out how these devils, they were, hold on. I was bringing out how these devils are setting up the narrative for this false flag. Khan, you changed it. You changed your name to, yeah, I seen that. Aliyah Lawaya, because you're a Levite. Khan. And, you know, so anyways, I was bringing out how Esau's basically setting the stage for this next false flag, which is going to be blamed on those who don't want to fuck with Vanessa, you know, you get the drift, and Islamic extremists, you know, they're going to be tied to each other. You know, foreign terrorism and domestic terrorism. And they did that with that chaos in Afghanistan. All that shit is by design, man. All that shit is by design so that they can basically that chaos in Afghanistan, and basically Joe Blow, you know, being lax on the border, just being accused of that, you know, making it look like he's being easy on the basically on so-called illegal immigration. Basically, the U.S. is turning a blind eye, etc., setting the narrative. That's what's going on. So just like before, I don't have to take a look at my live, but just like before, you had just before 9/11, just like before 9/11, that basically the U.S. made themselves appear like they wasn't prepared for it and all that. Turn the blind eye, whatever. You know, Clinton let Bin Laden slip and shit. And now and then you had 9/11. I'll have to take a look at your comment. Then you had 9/11 happen. That was the narrative. The U.S. turned a blind eye. They didn't know, etc. You know, and then we got attacked by surprise type shit. And then now they doing the same shit. And I believe because they're talking about the southern border being infiltrated or whatever, that it's gonna be attacked on the. And let me take a look. I'm gonna take a look at your comment a little bit, Akia. I'm gonna play this clip on San Andreas.
What's wrong? The pulse rates are spiking again. They're huge.
Are you serious?
And side note, this might cause the San Andreas fault to basically do the sting, you know, the big one. Big enough explosion. A nuke, which I believe it's gonna be a nuke. Because they're talking about Pakistan. But basically the Taliban might get nukes from Pakistan and shit and use them.
your eyes.
Alright, hold on. Let me check your comment. Oh, Khan. It's a part of the 10-year plan to destroy Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Khan. Slovakia. Yeah, Khan. Yep. That 10-year plan brought out by that general. But they're speeding it up to because they know their time is short. Ten year plan. Khan. Hey, earthquakes and virus places. General Wesley Clark. He brought it out. Wait, that what you talking about? Oh, we're finna find out.
We are Jarritos. We just taste super good. Jarritos!
Fora TV. The world is thinking.
What happened in 9/11 is we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have bipartisan agreement, we didn't have American understanding of it, and we had instead a policy coup in this country. A coup. A policy coup. Some hard-nosed people took over the direction of American policy, and they never bothered to inform the rest of us. I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11. I couldn't stay away from Mother Army. I went back there to see Don Rumsfeld. I'd worked for him as a White House fellow in the 1970s. All this is in the book. And I said, am I doing okay on CNN? He said, yeah, fine. He said, I'm thinking about it. He says, I read your book. And he said, this is a book that talks about the Kosovo campaign. And he said, I just want to tell you, he said, nobody's going to tell us where or when we can bomb. Nobody. He said, I'm thinking of calling this a floating coalition. What do you think about that? I said, well, sir, thanks for reading my book. And, he said, thanks, that's all the time I've got. Really? And I went downstairs. I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. He said, I said, well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, no. He said, but I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism, and so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong, and so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists. And you know, it's like that old saying. He said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. Well.
Oh. Side note. Who is what is Babylon called? You already know it. For those who don't. Jeremiah 15:23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? So Babylon, the hammer of the whole earth. Esau closed it.
Introducing PayPal Settle, the complete point-of-sale system for in-store.
Oh, Salakia. Trying to pull that comment up again.
Well, I walked out of there pretty upset. And then we attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said, 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it.
That back.
It's like that old saying, he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. I walked out of there pretty upset. And then we attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said, 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. He was about to show it to me. He said, because I want to talk about it. And I sat on this information for a long time, for about 6 or 8 months. I was so stunned by this, I couldn't begin to talk about it. And I couldn't believe it would really be true, but that's actually what happened. These people took control of the policy in the United States. And I realized then, it came back to me, a 1991 meeting I had with Paul Wolfowitz. You know, in 2001, he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, but in 1991, he was the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. It's the number 3 position in the Pentagon. And I had gone to see him when I was a 1-star general. I was commanding the National Training Center. I had met him one time. He said, if you ever get to Washington, come look me up. They always say that. Well, I was there in Washington. It was a Friday afternoon. I'd visited Colin Powell. He'd given me 5 minutes of his precious time and sent me on my way, and I was bored in the Pentagon, and I thought, I'll just go. Who can I see? I think I'll see Wolfowitz. So I called him up there. He was available. Scooter Libby came to the door. I met Scooter for the first time, and he brought me in, and I said to Paul, I said, and this is 1991, I said, Mr. Secretary, you must be pretty happy with the performance of the troops in Desert Storm. And he said, well, yeah, he said, but not really. He said, because the truth is we should have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein, and we didn't. And this was just after the Shia uprising in March of 91, which we had provoked, and then we kept our troops on the sidelines and didn't intervene. He said, but one thing we did learn, he said, we learned that we can use our military in the region.
They expose their own people, but like they hide their own roles in it.
Middle East, and the Soviets
won't acting like you just found all this out.
Stop us. He said, and we've got about 5 or 10 years to clean up those old Soviet client regimes. Syria, Iran, Iraq, before the next great superpower comes on to challenge us. And it was like, you know, I'm coming out of the Mojave Desert. I've been training troops. I haven't been thinking geostrategy for some time. And suddenly a guy just sort of shoves this nugget at you. Well, you remember it. It was a pretty stunning thing. You mean the purpose of the military is to start wars and change governments? It's not to sort of deter conflict? We're going to invade countries? And, you know, my mind was spinning. And I put that aside. It was like a nugget that you hold on to. This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century.
Oh, yeah,
they wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control. It went back.
Divide and conquer, just like what they did around the world. They basically, what they did here, what they did in Europe, take over, because it's not the original Europeans. What they did in America, the Americas, was now called that to the Northern Kingdom. What they did in Africa, they got them Hamites to turn against us. Them Hamites didn't want us there, but what they did was they armed them. We're gonna help you out. Then took them down after taking us down over there in Africa. In Asia, they took over that way. The same way, divide and conquer. That's the same way they do in the Middle East. What's now called as.
Back to those comments in 1991. Now, did anybody ever tell you that? Was there a national dialogue on this? Did senators and congressmen stand up and denounce this plan? Was there a full-fledged American debate on it? Absolutely not. And
because they kept it secret.
Still isn't. And that's why we're failing in Iraq. Because Iran and Syria know about the plan. All you have to do is read the Weekly Standard and listen to Bill Kristol, and he blabbermouths it all over the world.
Let me get that. And they shall cause their own tongues to fall upon themselves. Oh, I will make them. Psalm 64:7. But power Yahweh shall shoot them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. Verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So there you go. It's exactly what is going on here, even back then, with what that devil Bill Kristol did.
Richard Pearl the same way. They could hardly wait to finish Iraq so they could move into Syria.
Fuck.
It was like a laydown. Oh, our legions are going to go in there. This wasn't what
our legions. Rome all over again.
American people voted George Bush into office. Well, they didn't actually vote him into office, but it wasn't what many of the people who... It wasn't what he campaigned on. He campaigned on a humble foreign policy, the most...
Just like they all do.
Arrogant foreign policy in American history. He campaigned on no peacekeeping, no nation building, and here he is with Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, that's what they do. He had broken his covenant. That was a covenant. So many scriptures you could get out of this. He had broken his covenant. Yep. Because that's what they do. They make promises and then they break them once they get in that position of power. He had put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. Verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. A prime example of that. All these presidents, they promised that, man. We're not gonna do none of that bullshit that the last president was doing. What do you think we're gonna do? We're different. And when they get in office, they end up doing the same shit. They end up advancing the doctrine, that they end up advancing the agenda that the last president, because they work for the same top 13 families. They have the same boss. You know, saying new boss, same as the old boss. It's true. Biden works for the same elite devils, the same 13 families as Trump did, as Obama did, as Bush did, as Clinton did, as Reagan did, as Carter did, as Nixon did, etc. They work for the same bosses. So they're gonna do the same shit, advance the same agenda. Because the president, you know, he's really not in charge. He's a puppet. He's a puppet. He's a spokesman for these devils. He's the top spokesman for these devils. So of course, of course it's what they do. Of course he was gonna advance that war, man. They say one thing, do the opposite. Get this, verse 22, cast thy burden upon Yahweh, and he shall, upon Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, and he shall sustain thee, he shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. Verse 23, these devils think they slick getting away with it. Verse 23, but the fact that they're exposing themselves is leading to their downfall. But thou, O power Yahweh, shall bring them down unto the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. It's Esau. A bloody man. Bloody and deceitful man.
It's astonishing. So the root of the problem is not how many troops are in Iraq. Please believe me. Don't be
back in those days.
Mad if you're a Democrat at your Democratic congressman because they can't reduce the troops and frustrate the president.
Because they're puppets as well.
That's not the issue. And if you're a Republican, don't be mad at the Democrats because they're fussing with the troops. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're an American, you ought to be concerned about the strategy of the United States in this region. What is our aim? What is our purpose? Why are we there? Why are Americans dying in this region? That is the issue.
President and shit. But it's an example also of these devils putting themselves on blast as well. Thanks, Esau. Let someone else get on this and then finna wrap it up. Then this one too. The fuck. This, those of y'all, y'all can probably heard of this because when you first learn about the conspiracies of these devils, this some of the shit that you come across. On this, some fucking Edomite was the one that made it, I believe. I don't know who it is. Who they are in real life. Shit. Someone mentioned that on the last fucking, oh please, come on the last basically on the comment board of one of those video clips that I saw. I think it was the Simpson one. Fuck. Alright, let me see. It was one of these half-truthers brought it out. said something like, I don't know, man. I know where it's at. Hold up. Oh, fuck. That's not what I'm looking for. What the fuck? Let me just do this shit. Maybe check the comment board. Hold up. I'm gonna do this shit first. Because it was in the comment board of The Simpsons. Projection of gold. That's what that dude is talking about. Okay. Projection of gold. Of gold on the wall of the Hoover Dam. Let me get this. When did this shit happen? Yup, con. Dude who I believe and many other Akian believe is a speckled bird. You know, his spirit bears witness of it. The bones out, man. There's a lot of info that they bring out. Hold on, I just had a bug fly in my face.
The 1FC logo that you see right here, and
you see
the mascot, their goat, has been put on display in all its glory on the Hoover Dam in Arizona, and they did so for an extended period of time, long enough to set a new world record in the process. Now, this PR group from Cologne states that they did this because many of the people in the organization like this team, and that's why they did it. And they were experimenting with some new lighting. That's why they threw it up there. Others, it just one glance see it as an ominous sign. Here on this landmark, many people believe that the Hoover Dam is a very high-profile target for a big event. Many people reference the dollar bills, just like folding up and seeing the towers smoking, and other things that have pointed to something happening at this dam. Well, one thing's for sure, this caught some attention, and for those that missed it, just wanted to share it with you. I'll leave a link with more information pertaining to the world record. It's been Dabu 7.
Slacker. I did not mean to do that. Alright, but yeah, you know, like that dude mentioned, you know, let's just say what it do mean, because we know how these devils work. You know, the Bundesliga, let me read that little caption. Who knew FC Cologne was so popular in the Colorado River? Okay, the 10th place Bundesliga, which I think they're like the a German soccer team, there you go, really isn't that popular at the Hoover Dam, but you wouldn't have known it as their logo was projected on the giant American landmark all week. It was a record-setting projection. Nice work, FC Cologne, but why exactly was the side logo randomly projected there and setting a new Guinness World Record in doing so? Per the Bundesliga's website, H/T Dirty Tackle, parentheses, it was a handy lighting system. Others see it as suspicious, saying the goat is a representation of Baphomet. It is above two towers. And you look at it like, come on, it looks, yeah, literally twin towers, yo. Twin towers, and then you have the Baphomet over it. The goat, represents the Baphomet. Basically, it was not just done to set a new world record. They're showing you. New movie San Andreas came out around that time too. Around 6 years ago, yeah. Coming out May 29th. The scenario of the movie is larger earthquake in Northern California. Yeah, bro. Yeah. The movie is really gonna be true for us soon. Behold, hey, bro. They showed it. They showed the Hoover Dam being destroyed. And the Hoover Dam being blown up, being nuked. I can see it being nuked. Yeah, they thought it was gonna happen back then. Nah, that's not how they do it. It's not how they do it, man. But okay, whatever. Some people were saying basically he's a conspiracy theorist or whatever. But yeah, bro. You all said search in the comments. Maybe I could find some on here. But yeah, they're saying that it ain't nothing have to do with that, but they ain't thinking of the message, yo. They ain't thinking of the message. It's not gonna be right next to the southern. Well, not right next to it, but it's not too far from the southern border. And they could, wouldn't be surprised if they nuked it and they blamed it on Taliban, whatever extremists that got a hold of Pakistani nukes and shit, and came basically smuggled them across the border and blew that shit up, and then have a bunch of attacks connected to the people who don't want to fuck with Vanessa, bro. They're also being called anti-government extremists or enemies of the state. And this could be used to justify cracking down on baseball. I wouldn't be surprised if, they make this move, they play this game, so, Jacob's trouble, man, it's basically here. Jacob's trouble is here, man. If you're able to get this, then you come into the fold. You'll be able to come into the fold. This is we do this lives, to do that. Do that as well, man. To wake y'all up and to alert the sheep. Let me check the comm board, and I'm finna wrap it up.
Wait, y'all.
Yeah, I'm finna wrap it up. Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakadash, double honors to the apostles and